guys, I am Christina Heideck and I am back once again with another video to help you become a better leader so you can run a better PTO or PTA or PTSO or whatever alphabet soup you have going on for your group. That's fine. I am here to help. So today we are going to be talking about how to run your elections for this next school year. And I know you might be thinking, like, Christina, it seems awfully early to be talking about this. It is only January, after all. Well, here's the thing. It actually isn't too early. And when you're talking about elections and stuff like that, it's never too early to start. Actually, you should always kind of be thinking about this and having this in the back of your head, and it's just good planning, because if you wait until the end of the school year, or worse, wait till the end of the summer, you're just not going to have the time that you need to get those leaders into place and give them the opportunity to get prepared and plan for the next school year, right? So you want to be talking about this early. And I know for my groups, we don't actually do elections until, I think, April, and then we install in May. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this early so that you could put everything into place right now and you won't be scrambling, right? So that's why we're talking about this at the end of January. So the very first thing you need to do is to check your bylaws and your standing rules. If you have a good set of those governing documents, you are going to have the elections process. More than likely or not, it's going to be spelled out in one of the two documents. So everybody's bylaws and standing rules are set up a little bit differently. So you're going to want to check both documents. I would start with the bylaws and then move on to the standing rules if you don't find them in the bylaws. So first, check there for your process. You want to follow the process that your group has already agreed to. That's the whole purpose of bylaws and standing rules. If you're not following them, then what is the point of having them, right? Like, there'd be no point. So make sure you have them. So the next thing, but now I'm going to talk about like what to do if it's not spelled out in your bylaws and standing rules, or if for some reason you don't have bylaws and standing rules, which, side note, you need to get those babies put into place. It's very important. I have a whole blog post dedicated to that. So if you go to PTOanswers.com and search bylaws, it will pop up for you and walk you through the entire process of how to draft them, write them, get them approved. Like, the whole process is already laid out there for you. So check that out. So assuming the process is not spelled out in your bylaws and standing rules, here's the process that you need to follow. First, you need to get together a nominating committee. And this needs to be a group of volunteers that does not include the current president. Why? Because a lot of people have trouble saying no to the current president, even if they don't especially like them. It's just a thing. So you don't want to put people in the position of being afraid to say no, because you want volunteers who are ready, able, and willing, and like excited about stepping into a leadership position. You don't want to strong arm people into it. Not to say that I haven't used an occasional guilt trip when I have been on the nominating committee. Certainly, this is a very political process where you have to cut deals, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But just know that the president should really not be involved in the process. You should have other volunteers who are stepping up to make this happen. And so the first job of the nominating committee is to kind of put together a slate of officers who are interested in serving in leadership positions. And don't you know, UPS is here, so that is why my dog is going a little berserko. So sorry. Sorry for that. I told the kids and the husband, shh, quiet, I'm going live soon, but it didn't really matter because the dog doesn't listen. All right, so for making a slate, again, look to your bylaws, and you want to basically look for, usually the nominating committee is in charge of finding volunteers for the officer positions, usually not the committee positions. Usually that falls under the purview of the PTO president. So you want to let her, because she needs, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess it's because you want to work with people that you can work well with, and that it's most important to fill the larger volunteer roles first and then leave the smaller committee appointments to later. And so it's a big enough task for your nominating committee to be finding volunteers for the major roles. So if you, I guess I should have dropped this link in the video description earlier, but I have a whole post about what 9 positions you should have in your PTO, like that every PTO should really have. And I don't really think any of them are negotiable, and really they should be held by separate people. So you're probably looking for like at least 7, because I think one of the positions was like was a major role, but wasn't something that everyone would have. So you're probably looking to fill like president, membership, fundraising, any community programs you have, secretary, historian, did I say treasurer already? So communications chair, stuff like that. Or if that's a VP role for your group, whatever. So that's what your nominating committee is supposed to be doing, is to be approaching known volunteers. So people who are currently leaders. It's always kind of nice to ask them like, hey, are you interested in serving again? Especially if they're not term limited, because maybe your bylaws have term limits that say that you can only be in a position for 2 consecutive years, and then you need to rotate out to give somebody else an opportunity. And you definitely do not want to have the same people serving in the same roles for years and years and years, because then when their kids leave the school and they're no longer involved, no one else will know what to do, and it'll be a huge learning curve for them, and that you could easily avoid this if you just rotate through your volunteers. And the best kind of PTO volunteer is one that is not a specialist, that is not one that knows how to do just one thing really well, but kind of like really healthy PTOs have people who can fluidly move in and out of positions. For example, me, I can move in and out of every position in a PTO except for treasurer, because y'all know I can't add to save my life. Like, I really have problems with math. So I always tell people, you don't want me for that position, and people know, they don't even ask me, but they could ask me to be secretary or historian or membership or fundraising. I've done every single other role aside from treasurer. And when we've needed a treasurer, I think I've told you this, that I just told my husband, I go, guess what you're doing next year? So he served as treasurer for a couple different years for us when we got into a real big pinch. So you want to be looking at old volunteers, and as well as, or I shouldn't say old, so currently involved people, but you also need to look outside and get newer people in, because it's, I don't know, it's good to have fresh blood. It's good to have good new perspectives. It's good to, and apologies, I guess my husband forgot not to make noise. So, that is super distracting. All right. So you want to look for new people. And so how do you find these people? Because a lot of people are like, oh, this is great, Christina, that you say that we need all these people, but you can't, or you're supposed to get all these volunteers in place, but we don't even have like enough volunteers. Well, that's kind of why I say this needs to be kind of top of mind, like all the time. You should always be looking to get new people into your group, like get them involved in a volunteer position. And it doesn't even have to be like an elected position or even an appointed position, but you should always be open and extending to new people so that you can get them involved when you need them. So if after you've asked all the existing people, kind of what are you interested in serving again, and maybe even what capacity are you interested in serving again, then you move on to people who are in smaller volunteer roles, or maybe who have just volunteered at an event. And one note before I move on to that, I should say, when people give you their preferences, that doesn't mean that that's exactly what they get to do. The nominating committee's job is to decide whether they are the best person out of all of the possibilities for that year, if they're that best person for that role this year. Because your job is to make a kick-ass PTO, okay? So you're supposed to be coming up with the very best list of people who are going to help you reach your PTO's goals. So just keep that in mind. Like, people can give you their preferences and they can tell you what they're willing to do and what not willing to do, but you should never have someone like be cherry picking what they want to do or what they're going to do. So anyways, now let's move on to like the reliable volunteers. Again, you want to take the people's reliability, and if they're following through with what they say they're going to do, that's going to make a really good leader, right? So you want to look at especially for the new volunteers or the new parents who haven't been involved before, you want to consider if they have the skill set or not. You want to consider if they are a good communicator. You want to consider if they play well, nicely with others. If they are a pain in the butt to work with, don't nominate them. They still need to be involved if they want to be involved, but I would put them into a position where they can play by themselves. That sounds kind of weird, but I think you know what I mean. If you've ever dealt with someone who's difficult in PTO, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't have to deal with them. Give them something they can do by themselves that doesn't like hold up the train for the rest of the people, like who want to go forward. Okay, so you want to make sure also that they're going to show up and that they're going to do the work. Like, if they have flaked on even just coming to meetings and they always have like a lame excuse, that's not going to be somebody you want to depend on. And I would rather see you go into the new year with a few open positions than to put crappy volunteers in leadership positions. Okay, so keep that in mind. The overall goal is to have a complete set of leaders ready to go. But if that means having crappy people, I wouldn't do it. I personally would just leave it open or just wait for somebody. So you really want to also pay attention to your mix of leaders. You want to have a diverse group of people. In my community, it's very ethnically diverse. We have a lot of Black families, some Hispanic families, a lot of Caucasian families too. So we have like a nice mix of ethnicities, but also like economic levels. And so you want to make sure that you are not just having a PTO led by people who like don't work outside the home. Like, you want to have everybody represented. So ideally, your PTO should reflect what the school body looks like. So I want you to make sure that you're paying attention also to like the languages that are spoken. If you are in Texas and your population, your student population, like the families that are in the school are mostly Spanish speaking, you need to have some Spanish speaking people on your PTO. Like, if you have only primarily English speaking parents, you're going to have this huge click form because the Spanish speaking population is going to feel very excluded. Even if you are trying, if that's not your goal, of course I know that's not your goal, you want to include everybody, but they're going to feel like really left out. I'm just saying. So you need to just keep that in mind. So you want to make sure that your group is as diverse as possible. In my own PTAs, one of the goals that I stated to my nominating committee, because I happen to be in charge of a nominating committee this year, I said, hey, we need to get more Black women involved. I'm just going to say, like, we just did not have, it was just like a bunch of white ladies. And I go, this does not reflect our school. We need to get more people involved. And one of my BFFs who's involved on the nominating committee with me, she's a Black woman, and she goes, girl, preach. And I go, well, you can say it in a different way than I can say it. So I was like, I need you to go and maybe spread the word a little differently than I can. But just keep that in mind. So Megan has a question. What do you do if you have someone who doesn't work well with others, nominates themselves for a position, and nobody else wants to do it? Well, see, here's the thing. Let me hit this little button so I can see more. Well, you can self-nominate. Okay, so this is what's happened before when we've had a problem child come up. Y'all just need to get together and somebody needs to go and run against that person. I hate to say it. Like, if the alternative, if you have somebody who will, and this is where it gets kind of sticky, but there's no other solution. If the person who does not work well with others is the only person willing to do it, then you either have to put up with them for the year, or you need to find somebody to run against them, or you need to do it yourself. You need to look at like what's worse, right? The worst case scenario. And we've totally dealt with this in our school district. We had somebody who was, we've had a couple leaders who just like went from organization to organization, kind of wrecking. It was like a wrecking ball they took through them and really gutted the organizations. And when they got to a different unit, somebody was like, the group of parents, I wasn't there yet, they just got all their friends and said, we're going to come through and we're going to nominate some people because this person is not going to be a good leader for this group. This person is going to really hurt this group like she hurt the other group. And so we're just not going to let that happen. So Megan, that would be my advice to you. It's not a great answer, but it's an honest answer because you got to do some tough things sometimes. Let's get back to the nominating committee because I'll wrap around to the self-nominations and all that jazz too. Then you need to present the slate to have everybody know who's been slated for what. And before you announce a slate, of course, you want to go through and contact everybody and double check that they're cool with getting slated for whatever position the nominating committee has slated them for. So then you want to present the slate at least a month before the elections so that, like just what Megan just said, you can have people self-nominate themselves. Or self-nominate. That was bad, but you know what I'm trying to say. So you can have people raise their hand and say, I'd like to run for this position, or I'd like to be considered for this position. And so then you can have elections after that. So you present the slate, then the next month you're going to have elections, and the list, the ballot is going to include anybody who has been slated for the position. So it's going to, the ballot, if you set it up the right way, it's going to say slated person can go first, and then anybody else who wants to nominate themselves can also be included, and then the vote is what the vote is, right? This year, I bet a lot of groups are going to be doing virtual elections, so I would really suggest you grabbing, I have a free resource for you, you just have to give me your email so I know where to send it to, but you can grab it there's a companion blog post to this video that I'm doing today, so that goes along the same lines. So you can find the video. I think I put the link in the video description to the blog post, and I think it's at ptoanswers.com /PTO-officer-elections, I believe. So then you vote and you hold elections, and then you install those people. All right, so now we have some questions. Lee asked, what do you do if you are literally the only PTO person left? Then you just reach out to your friends. Like I have not been in the position where I'm the only person left, but I will be really honest with you. I have the junior high where I am president right now has, for the last 5 years, had no more than 3 or 4 leaders involved for a school of like 600 kids, maybe 700 kids, I think. So I'm really, I'm bad with numbers. But basically what you do is you just look to everyone in your life. Like you look to the other, your kids' friends, parents who are not involved, and you just have to be really enthusiastic about your vision for the PTO and why it matters. And actually, we're going to be talking about this more all throughout the month of February, Lee. So you're really going to want to pay attention or kind of watch out for those additional videos and resources that I'm going to be sharing, because this video could go on forever and ever. And I do already have some videos on, or videos and blog posts on PTOanswers.com. If you look up membership and parent involvement, there are some great ideas for getting people involved. But I think I was involved with my district's strategic planning committee. Yeah, I can't, now I'm not able to talk. I have this issue like every once in a while, or the words escape me. Anyway, the facilitators shared this video, and it's shared in one of the blog posts about how to get other people excited about joining your group. But it's basically like how to start a movement. And I think if you look on YouTube, there's a video about how to start a movement. And when they showed the video, it was talking about getting people forming a community, really, because we were talking about the strategic plan for the school district for like the next 5 or 6 years. But like, what did that look like? But it was also talking about like building the community, like the school community, right? And so the video that they showed, I just got goosebumps. And so let me just describe it for you. And it won't be the same. You're going to have to go watch it, but it was very inspiring. And I really was like, that is exactly what we need to do as like PTO and PTA leaders. It's to get really excited about something and just to openly express it. And when you are excited about something, it's contagious. If you are having fun, which you should be doing as a PTO leader, if you are having fun, people are not going to be able to resist you. They are going to want to be around you. And that's why I think I'm pretty successful as a PTO leader, because I do have a genuine enthusiasm for all of this. And so, okay, I promised you a description of the video. So here it is. So I think they were at some like music concert, and there was this hill and people were like sitting down on either sides of the hill. Well, this one guy gets up and just starts dancing in the middle of the hill, like all by himself. And his moves, okay, I can't dance, so whatever. But like his moves were like crazy. And then you saw people watching him and they were like, look at that guy. Like he's just all out there. Like there were like hundreds of people here, okay? Well, then somebody else was like, that looks like fun. I'm going to go join him. So then like the two of them are like dancing, right? And then you see all these other people join in with them. That is how you start a movement, and that is how you grow your PTO. By having the enthusiasm, by expressing it, and by inviting other people in. When other people got up to join him, he wasn't like, no, this is my crazy dance time. Don't come. He was just like, yeah, they were all dancing and having a great time. And I got to tell you, goosebumps. Even when I watch, I'm just like, I think I just gave my goosebumps describing it, because the level of excitement he had at that music concert is kind of what I feel for PTO stuff. And that is why I'm a PTO nerd. And if you're getting excited by just listening to this too, then you're probably a PTO nerd. So that's why we just have to share our enthusiasm, and that will help our groups grow. Because who doesn't want to be involved with fun and when it feels good like that, right? So I guess this all really is involved with the PTO election stuff, but you have to have a good vision for your group. And this is why I talk about being organized, planning, having goals, because nobody wants to be in charge of a sinking ship. Nobody wants to come on board knowing they're going to have to bail buckets of water out of that boat to keep it afloat. No, people want to be on like a tidy ship. They want to be on like a Disney cruise liner that is headed to the Bahamas for that private island. And when you get your PTO organized, and when you get other like-minded people with you, and you have a plan and you have a goal and visions for your group, you're not going to have a problem attracting people. But when that vision gets murky, and when the goals are unclear, and when things are kind of a hot mess, that's when people are going to be like, not touching that group with a 10-foot pole. So that is my advice to you, is if you are like, okay, Christina, thank you so much for telling me like what we need to do, but like how to put it into action, got to get other people excited. And you're going to have to step out of your comfort role, and you're going to have to ask other people to step out of their comfort zone too. And don't be afraid to ask. That's why I say like the answer to any question before it's asked is already no. So you only have the opportunity to get a yes. You're not going to get a yes if you never even ask. So ask people, but ask them in a way that you would like to be asked. So I think it's sometimes you might go, oh, so-and-so would be really good for it. And like there's this one friend, and I don't get to see her that often because her kids are at different schools, but next year she's going to be at the same school as my youngest. And I was talking with the person in charge of the nominating committee because I'm president at that school. And I said, you know who'd be really good is Kim. Kim would be awesome for this one role, but I know she's going to say no, but she would be awesome. So sometimes it takes like boosting people's ego. Truthfully, like you don't want to pump them up if they suck. Like if they suck, you don't want to do this. But for people who are a little hesitant, and I'm finding that's really common, like people go, oh, no, I can't possibly be president. And it's like, girl, we cannot have the same people being president at every single school, which is kind of what happens in my school district. And it stinks because I sometimes can't be president everywhere. And people graduate and you need new leaders. It's not good for your group. So maybe I will talk about that more, about how to make the specific ask, because generally I have pretty good luck. Oh, and I did say that I would talk about like the political thing of getting people into position. So a lot of times what I will do is if I have somebody that I really want to be involved and that I think they're hesitant, I'll say, look, if you come into this leadership position, then I'll do this for you, or I'll stay on in a more major role. For the one PTA that I am transitioning out of being president for next year, because I've already been president for 2 years, that's what I told one person. I was like, hey, if you come on, I will stay on in a significant role to support you. So you're not going to be left to figure it out all by yourself. And I'll be right there. So it'll be fine. And she ended up not being able to take the role because of family life circumstances. But I'm just saying you got to use that carrot sometimes, right? So, okay, I think I have talked enough and I probably could keep going on forever. But y'all have probably had enough. And if you just join me at the end, then make sure to click back around and watch the whole thing, because I think this was a really good video. And so I hope it's been really helpful for you guys. So we talked about how to run your PTO elections, and that to get people interested in serving so that they will say yes, got to make your PTO fun. Got to make your PTA fun. The whole thing needs to be fun. If it's only work, then no one wants a piece of that. You don't even want a piece of that. So, all right, next week, let me flip ahead to my cheat sheets here. Ooh, this is going to be a good one. I'm really excited about this one too. We are going to talk about how to rebound from the pandemic as a PTO, like what you need to be doing. Lee asked, do you have information on bylaws on your blog? I sure do. So pop on over there. And Karen also mentioned that PTO PTA should be fun. Heck yeah, woman. And I know you have experience with things being not fun. So you know when it stinks and you're like, ooh, but it could be so much better than this. So yes, Lee, go check out the blog. And yes, Karen, things need to be fun. Need to be fun. All right, so next week, rebounding from the PTA, or rebounding from the pandemic, what your PTA and PTO needs to do right now. I'm really passionate about this. So this next topic, I have some great ideas to share with you. So I'll be excited to do that next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. And I am going to really tell everybody in my household, if they are noisy, I'm just going to end them. So you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.